I'm going to just talk about really just some of the lessons that I have come across from a personal perspective more than anything else in terms of setting up Realex Payments. And I worked in the Financial Services Centre for 14 years, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would we have today what we currently have, I would have said no. I wouldn't have set my aspiration to the level to which we're currently at. And yet, if you ask me today, would I be content with what we currently have, I would say no. And something's changed in the intervening 10 years, and I guess that's about my own ambition and my own aspiration for what it is that we can achieve. And so much of what you do is based upon your ambition and based upon your aspiration, and that's been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the last 10 years. Realex is 10 years in business, 11 years in business. We employ about 90 people across Ireland, the UK and France. We process now in excess of 10 billion, believe it or not, euro worth of business for 3,500 retailers every year. And some of the retailers that we process for are some of the world's largest brands like Virgin Atlantic and Party Poker and big international websites where we have as well as thousands of smaller businesses as well. So it's a story that's been told a few times, and certainly for me, I'm very proud of the people within Realex Payments and our continuing ambition to scale the company and to scale the company overseas, outside of Ireland. I've been talking to some people about the dependency that many Irish businesses have on the Irish economy. And Ireland is the size of Manchester. You don't build a business to service a city like Manchester. You build a business to service big markets. And we've been trying for many, many years to break in to overseas markets, which can often be a very challenging thing to do. And but we've managed to do that successfully. And we're on the crest now at the moment, where over in the UK in particular, we've won some major contracts as well. And the type of contracts that we have in place that, like, within the first 6 months of next year, we'll more than perhaps double the volume of business that we're processing with the contracts that we're currently implementing. So again, there's plenty of opportunity out there. We've also got a new company that's launching next year, which is Carapay. And Carapay is where we've applied for a license to operate basically online bank accounts in 26 countries across Europe, and that license has now been awarded to us since in June of this year, and we're going to go live with that in May of next year. And that's a consumer proposition which will allow people basically to be able to pay in multiple different currencies directly from regular current account and bank accounts when shopping online, eliminating the need for cards and so on. So it's a different proposition, undoubtedly, which I'll be back to talk about at another stage next year. We operate a number of different online brands as well, and then you can find us through all the different social media in terms of where we're at. And I'm also very happy. I'm heavily involved with IGAP, the Internet Growth Acceleration Programme. I work extensively and deeply with Enterprise Ireland, not just with a view towards helping Realex Payments, but also with a view towards helping other internet businesses as well. And I'm delighted to see that IGAP last year ran, and there was the Internet Growth Acceleration Programme. 15 companies went through it, and this year there's 19 companies going through the IGAP programme. And that's one of the best Internet Growth Acceleration programs that you can get your hands on. It's a superb facility and one that we can all be very proud of. And Enterprise Ireland have done a tremendous job in putting that programme together. I was asked to take 7 tips, somebody called them, but they're kind of 7 just things that just occurred to me as I sat down to think about it. I saw some of the mistakes that I made along the way too. And one of my first and probably my biggest mistake right at the start was that I didn't ask for help. And one of the things that I had to do right there at the start was to ask for help. And it was somebody said it to me, that you're trying to do too much yourself and you weren't asking for help. And I realised after, I don't know, a period of several months perhaps, that I hadn't asked for help. And asking for help is a very simple thing to do, but you tend not to do it. Your instinct is sometimes not to do it. But yet there's a fundamental human trait that people like to help and people like to be helped. And when you ask for that help, I've got it. And I remember, and there's a little lie that you can tell, that if you want help from 7 people, and if you tell the first one that the other 6 have agreed, by the time you get to the 7th one, you've told the truth. And you can get everybody to agree to help you. And I remember going to one of the things I wanted at the start was I wanted very credible companies associated with me. So I went to some tier 1 names in terms of lawyers and accountancy practices and told them that each and other were helping me and involved in terms of helping me. And eventually they all said yes, and I solicited a lot of help from a lot of people, a lot of suppliers over a lot of time when I couldn't raise the money. But we tried to raise the money and failed in the process of trying to raise that money. We eventually raised money under a BES, but for the first 2 years we couldn't and didn't raise money, and instead we built the solution by asking for help and getting that help from people, which is something I was very slow to do at the start. The second thing that occurred to me is a word that comes into nearly every conversation that I have at the moment, which is the word clarity. And that if you want to have clarity, if you want to make something happen, you must make it clear. And so many people are not clear about what it is that they want to achieve. And what I've said there is clarity of your vision over and above your plan. A lot of people might come with a very comprehensive plan, but we all know that at this stage in starting the business, if I showed you the plan for CaraPay, it's a nonsense. It's not going to come true. Well, if I express the vision about CaraPay and the ambition that we have for CaraPay, that can come true, and you will buy into the vision, but you won't necessarily buy into the plan. And if you want to make it real, they say you've got to make it clear. And the first step in the journey for me always was to make clarity of what it is we wanted to try to achieve, and what was clarity of the vision that we were trying to do. And that vision, when you get clarity of a vision, what you get on the other party is you try to impart some of the aspiration that you've got for the company that you're just about to set up. And if they buy that aspiration from you, well, then you've sold them. The plan really doesn't matter. It's the vision that counts when you're starting out, and making sure that that vision is absolutely clear. This has kind of got two meanings. Focus is an important word, and I would still be very hard on myself because I'm not focused on the things that I know I should be focused on sometimes. And when you're starting out, it's very, very easy to get distracted, and you must remain focused. And focus is extremely important. And focusing on the things which are, important rather than the things that are necessarily urgent. And how do you distinguish between what's really important for me to focus on right now, the hard things that maybe you put off until 11 o'clock that you know you really should be working on at 9 o'clock. You've got to focus on the things, the challenges that are there, and work on those. And focusing on the now was about, there's a lot of people out there who will, start a conversation with you about your business, and they'll ask you about the exit strategy. And I find that sometimes a little awkward, because my exit was 10 years ago, and this is actually my exit. My exit happened already, if you like, in many respects for me, because I spent 14 years trying to get to the position in which I find myself at the moment. And it's not about an exit, perhaps, for some people, but it's about actually having the role that you've got and leading in the role that you have and continuing to build and to grow your business. An exit is, of course, a very positive event and one that can bring great rewards with it. But focusing on the now, I think, is more important than focusing on the exit. I heard one VC one time tell me that businesses are bought and not sold. In other words, you don't focus on selling, you don't focus on the exit, but you focus on what it is that you do. And you must enjoy the journey. You must wake up every day and say to yourself that you like doing this, that you want to do this, and that you enjoy doing this. And this is the thing that gets you up out of bed in the morning and says, I'm glad I don't have to go back work wherever you might have been working before or whatever you were doing before, because this is what you want it to be. And certainly for us, the focus on making sure that the journey itself is enjoyable is extremely important. I remember a question I got in behavioural science when I was studying in college all those years ago, and it was, do opposites attract, or do birds of a feather flock together, was the question. And I kind of wrote down opposites clash. If you're going to build a business and you're going to start out, more often I see people, either they're going to start on their own or they're going to start with somebody else. And I was lucky because I was on my own. And, and in some respects, some people would say, well, you might have been luckier had you found somebody else to start this business with you. And it's always, who knows, but I know that partnerships can be extremely difficult. And if you do go into partnership with somebody, you have to be very sure that this is a partnership that's going to work. You can't have two people make every critical decision. You've got to have one person within the organisation who's going to call the shots. And if you have people within the organisation who are not aligned with the vision of that organisation, are not aligned with the values of that organisation, you have to have those discussions. And that's an ongoing exercise, but it applies at the startup stage as much as it does with the growing stage. That if there is a clash within the organisation, within people, and if you've got somebody on your board or if you've got somebody on the management team that's clashing with you, well then you've got to address that issue. And it's very, very important. I was very fortunate in that one of the founding members of our company and one of the directors was a great support and has been a constant support. And having somebody on the board who's a constant support, and well, actually you can be really honest with them and tell them the actual truth about how things are going within the organisation, is an invaluable support and one that's extremely useful going forward as well. Networking. When I began, I can remember very well getting the dart into town for about a 6-month period, and I'd get off at Pier Station and I'd wander up, and there was the 3 hotels there, the Davenport, the Alexander and the Montclair, is it? And then I'd go to one each day because I didn't want to go to the lobby of the same one every day because it might make it look like it was loitering. So I went to one on a Tuesday, one on the Wednesday, and cycled through the 3 of them. And that was my office for about 6 months, I can remember very well. And at that time, it was, again, the vision was being honed. And I had what I would refer to as constant circulation through the network. So constant circulation through the network, the people that I knew who might be able to help me someday. Even still in relation to Carapay, which is a new company, I'm constantly circulating through the network of people that I know that can ultimately help me to make that business a success, which could be different from the people that I meet with respect to Realex. And that's become really, really important. And Enterprise Ireland, who I've mentioned before, are a part of your network, and you need to make them a part of your network. There's people who give out about, Enterprise Ireland not funding them or not giving them money, but there could be valid reasons why they haven't given you money or haven't funded your organisation. But also, I think Enterprise Ireland play a huge role in helping you to network. And through the programmes that are in place, be it the International Selling Programme, the M50 Programme, the Leadership for Growth Programmes, and now the IGAP Programmes, it's a fabulous opportunity for you to network as well. So networking and constant circulation through the network. And I can remember going to my bankers and giving them an update as to where I was, because I needed an overdraft facility at the time. I can remember going to my lawyers and giving them an update as to where I was in terms of creating the business. And I'd meet them for lunch every 2 months or whatever it might be, because I didn't want to disappear off their radar. And I was fearful of the fact that if they didn't see me or hear from me, that they might think something's gone wrong. So I wanted to show them that we were taking the next step and that we were continuing to make progress. So your network is much wider than you think that it is. And always going back into the community and spreading the word that you are making progress and that the project is progressing bit by bit by bit is extremely important, because you're sending out that positive vibe all the time. In terms of getting it wrong, there's many things, I suppose, that we would have got wrong. I use the word we when I talk about getting things wrong, and I when we got them right. But it was when the failure that we've encountered along the way has been quite significant, and what we're trying to do all the time is to learn and make sure that that learning is constant. And the best way to learn is obviously through failure, and not to kind of look at failure as something that's a problem, but to see failure as some way for you to try again. My own daughter has told me that failure is the motivation to try again. Failure is not a problem, and failure is something that you have to embrace and understand and try to work with on a regular basis. That's pretty clear. If you're in this for money, I think that you'd be better off playing the lotto. If business can bring you lots of money, and business can bring you great financial reward, but if it becomes your sole ambition is just about making money, I think that your business model can sometimes be difficult. The best definition I have heard of a business today, and in terms of a market, the definition of market is a group of people with a problem to be solved. And if you can identify a group of people with a problem to be solved, the chances are you can make a product to solve that problem, then you've got a market. And that's one of the things that we would be concentrating very heavily on at the present. Finally, I was going to tell you to ignore all the other tips that you've got, right? Because they're all really irrelevant. And really, the most important thing I would say to you is to listen to what it is that you want yourself. Listen and be truthful to yourself about where you see the weaknesses and where you see the strengths in terms of the model and in terms of your own ability to execute on that plan. Don't lie to yourself about what it is that you want to try to do and how you know about what it is you can and can't do. And then believe in that. Really believe and be very positive. There's a huge positive message. I said this morning down in the Phil, and I was there with Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and all these big corporations, and it's wonderful to see them here. But I was the sole voice of any Irish business actually sitting on the stage at the time, and I tried to put up my hand and say, excuse me, we also believe in the indigenous Irish internet sector, and I'd be very passionate about that. And there is a very strong belief within that sector that the indigenous Irish internet sector will continue to grow. And as I say there, accept failure that you might encounter along the way as a step in that journey to success. In terms of summary, just to say to you that when I started out, and the last 10 years for me, as I said at the start, have been a phenomenal opportunity. They've been a great opportunity, a great release from the day job, if you like, of what I was doing before. It was the third time that I had tried to do something. So again, there were previous attempts to get out and to break out and to try to create businesses that hadn't worked. And this was the one that I decided to, in the end, to finally make a break for. I've been very lucky along the way, surrounded by great talented people, wonderful people who also share in that same vision. And as I say, if there was, really the one thing that I would say to you is to put whatever you're doing, put as much clarity on what it is that you're trying to do at this stage. And I would wish you very much all very success with your startups.